Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Coffee with Chris. I am so excited you're joining me today. And man, what a week! What a week it's been, both from a personal standpoint and from a business standpoint, a YouTube standpoint. It's just been a week of excitement and a week of self reflection and a week of starting some new habits and hobbies. And so, man, I'm both coming to you this morning excited and amped up and exhausted all at the same time. And I would gather to think that most of you, most of us all could probably relate to that at various points and times in our lives when we've got a lot of exciting stuff going on and things seem to be getting on the uptick and starting to feel well. But at the same time, it's exhausting being busy and trying to grow something. So, man, what are you doing? Flash is with me again this morning. I don't know how long you'll stay, but from a business standpoint, I'm getting it's the business is growing, the woodworking business, and I'm about as busy right now as I've been since I've started the woodworking in terms of the amount of projects I have that are on my list and that I'm doing at one time. I have five in the shop right now that are going on all at once. Four of them are smaller that can be done in a day's time or 2 days time if you let paint dry and things like that. But and one of them's a larger project. I don't want to spoil it because it will be a video coming out here in several weeks, and it's probably the largest video in terms of the depth of the project, the size of the project that I've done on the channel. In fact, I know it is the biggest one that I've done on the channel. And and the great thing about it, this is the only spoiler I'm going to give you, is even though it's a more in-depth project in terms of what we've done on the channel, um, it's still budget friendly because that's the parameters that the client had in terms of their money budget for the project. And so it still fits into the kind of the platform of what the channel is. And so I'm really looking forward to getting it done. I just started working on it, and of course the filming of a project is so much more than just building it. So I'll quit rambling now. And well, no, I'm not. One more thing. I wanted again, I know I do this a lot, but I wanted to say thank you again to all the people that watched and subscribed to the channel and supported the channel. I did make a post this morning when I got up, but sometime late yesterday evening, we did get to the 2,000 subscriber point on the channel. And, it's not a significant milestone in terms of monetization or anything like that. We talked about that a few weeks ago. We've passed that point happily. And, but it's just a cool milestone to keep up with. So, 2,000 subscribers. And then I woke up this morning and to, I think, 2,108 subscribers. So over the course of the nighttime, we gained, like 108, which, again, large channels may not be a lot for a channel our size. That's, man, it's so exciting, so exciting. So, again, I wanted to say thank you for that. I wanted to say, the appreciation I have for just support, all the comments, man, they're so great to read, and this thing is getting bigger faster than I expected it to, and I'm really enjoying the process. And of course, that comes along with some stresses too, because there's more to do and more things going on. And like I said, I think in the video last week, every time you kind of hit these milestones or the bigger you get, the more things that pops up for YouTube that they want you to get involved in, or they want you to start doing on your channel, or they want you to start this other feature and all these things. So a lot going on up here in this big bald skull of mine, and we're trying to figure out. So, but again, just thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I hope that we can keep making videos that are relatable and that you guys enjoy and that are authentic, because that's really the goal of the channel. So before we get started on today's topic, made a promise last week and I'm keeping up with it. So I've got some submissions in from our friend Caleb at Hat Creek Craftworks, and I'm gonna put those on the screen. And he sent in some. Now he's got some here that are projects that he's got finished up that he's working on for the upcoming fall and holiday season. And any of us that do vendor shows or craft fairs or flea markets, I talk about it all the time. That is peak sales time. At least it is in our area. And so I'm starting actually probably next month. I'll be starting on the same thing. I'll be starting on projects for those shows. And so Caleb, some of the things he submitted to us here are he's got these trees and a couple of varieties of Christmas trees with ornaments on them. And I did some of these last year and sold out of them in terms of the trees. I didn't do any of these smaller ones that he's got that have the small ornaments in the kind of the circular areas there. I did see some of those online, on Facebook and different things. I never got around to making any, but they seem very popular. And the other trees he's got here are more of what I did last year. And like I said, I sold out of those and did well with them. And even had some people contact me like on Facebook to make them separately outside of the vendor shows, and I delivered them to them. So, Caleb, I'm hoping you have that same type of success with them. You're in Louisiana, here in Arkansas, so we're both in the South, and so maybe some of the sales trends for the holidays, are the same where we're at. He's also got kind of a variety of these what I'm gonna call jack-o'-lantern boxes, and he's got a light in them, so they're kind of jack-o'-lantern lanterns. And this is one thing that I haven't really got into. I didn't do much last year for the kind of Halloween or fall season. I did a few little things, and I didn't have a lot of success with them. Now, that may have to do with the shows we went to or the amount of shows we did during that time. We really kind of geared ours last year towards the Christmas decor and not as much on the kind of fall decor. I'm going to give some of the fall stuff more of a shot this year, and because we do have some shows scheduled, and see how we do on those. But these look great, and I think they would do fantastic in my area. Now, some of you don't sell or let me see what I'm trying to say. Some of you, we live in different areas of the country, and I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. I need more coffee. Hold on a second. I'm only one cup in today. So some of you, the areas you live in, we've talked about this, different things sell in different areas and different places. And actually, we're going to talk about that in today's video. But Caleb's crafts here kind of make me think of it. Crafts and holiday decor like these jack-o'-lantern that he's got and the Christmas trees, these things do really well down here in the South, I find, at least what we've had so far. And I don't know if that's the same everywhere. Like I said, I just sell here where I'm at. But this kind of stuff does really well during those times of the year at craft shows and things. People love the small crafts. They love the holiday decor. Even if it's something they only get out for a month or two of the year, you put it and at it and you get it out with all your Christmas stuff. Man, they love it. They love handmade crafts like this. And so that's part of what we're going to talk about today. And I said last week I wanted to save these submissions because of it. He also sent us a couple pictures here I want to put up on screen. And these are ones that he hasn't got done yet, but he has got the mock-ups off of SketchUp and his projects. He said they're in the shop on the workbench. They're being worked on, at least when he sent these a few weeks ago. And I can definitely relate to that for sure. And so, man, send those in when you get them finished. I love anything, as you know, if you've watched enough of the channel, I love anything with crosses that has to do with my faith or anything that's patriotic as well. Those are things that I make also. And I've seen a few of these that you've got this picture of the tomb with the cross. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that one finished. So please send that in when you get done with it. I've seen a few of those online. I don't think I've seen any at our shows. And so I may try to make a couple of those and take them to a few shows this holiday season and see how they do. But, man, Caleb, thank you so much for sending in your submissions, man. I appreciate that. And for anybody else, please send in your builds. I'll continue to beg. I say that every week. I'll continue to beg. Please send in your builds. It doesn't matter if they're small, they're big. If you're newer or you're a woodworking master, send them in. I'd love to share them on the channel and just show people what people are making. And you never know. I mean, people see builds that other people are doing, and it inspires them to try stuff, to try things in their area, try things at shows. And that's what the channel's all about. We're all about just helping people grow and get better with their woodworking or anything else that comes up on the channel. So I'm going to put my email down as I normally do here. Please send in your builds, and let's continue to share stuff and grow through the community. But I want to run through these, and this is not a thing of, the topic today is building smalls versus larger items. And so that question comes up a lot. What should I build to make money if that's my goal? If my goal is a side hustle or business to make money and to sell items. What should I build? Small things, larger things, and this kind of these ideas and these points. This is not a one way is right and one way is wrong, because I don't believe that's the case. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer when it comes to it. I think it's something we all go through when we start woodworking, is what I want to build and what I want to make, and if I want to sell it, so on and so forth. And so that's what this is. This is kind of more just a questions, things to think about, things that you got to answer to yourself when you're going through this process and you're thinking about it. And kind of like a brainstorming session. This is really what this is. It's not a right or wrong type of thing. Let's distinguish first, if you're new to this, or you're new to making stuff, building stuff, doing shows, what we're talking about when we say the word smalls. So smalls is something that's used in the hobby or in the business as items that are, yes, smaller in size and stature, but also don't have as much upfront cost, maybe don't require as many tools and various things, certainly not specialty items or specialty tools, and you can sell them for less. So, and a lot of times people make smalls in bigger batches. They batch them out, they make them in bigger quantities, and that's kind of the philosophy for smalls. And then we'll just say bigs. We'll use the phrase bigs for bigger items, furniture pieces, tables, things that take more money up front. You can sell for more in the end, but it's a different process. So that's how we refer to these when we're talking today. So the first thing to think about is revenue isn't the same as profit. And what we mean is selling a $20 item isn't a bad thing. If you make $17 on it, selling a $20 item seems pretty cool. That seems like a great profit. Selling a $1,500 table isn't a bad thing either. If you make $500-$600 off of it, whatever the case may be, that seems like a great idea too. But there's some factors that come into play leading up to those decisions on which direction to go. So just some stuff to think about. How much material does it take, and how much does that material cost? Do you have the expendable funds, the money up front to buy those materials? Obviously, if you're building stuff out of pine from the big box store, which I do a lot of, the materials are less than if you're buying fine hardwoods, but you can't sell the product for as much in the end. If you're building stuff with fence pickets, fantastic, and you can do a whole lot of stuff with a few fence pickets. You can make a lot of small crafts and projects. Again, maybe you can't sell them as much in the end. But do you have the money up front for the materials? How much does labor cost? Now, this is probably getting a little past the normal little garage workshop like a lot of us have. But, if you figure up how long it takes you to make something, what's the cost of that? And even more so, if you don't have the equipment or the room or whatever, a specialty tool, if you're doing something bigger, and you need to either rent one or you need to pay somebody else to help you do that part of the project, what does that cost? I know a lot of people that like to build, we'll go to bigs because this is pertaining more to the bigs, but if you're building tables, well, not everybody has a large planer, a big wide planer. Most of us have what they call the lunchbox planers, 12 and a half or 13 inches. You can do up to 12 and a half on your size, on your width. But if you need to plane down something larger and wider, or run it through a drum sander, which are super expensive, and a lot of us don't have those, um, you got to take it somewhere that has that and pay them to use the equipment or to do it for you or to mill it down or whatever the case may be. So take that. That's a factor to think about. How much is finishing? Like, does the product you're doing, is it okay with some spray on lacquer? I use that on a lot of products. Or do you need a higher end finish because this is a higher end table? How much does that cost? And then how long until I get paid? This is a big one. If you're spending $70, $100, whatever it is on materials and consumables to batch out, a big batch of these crafts or these smalls, and you have to sell them a little bit at a time over a few months at farmers markets or shows or whatever your means of over marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, whatever your means of selling are. Maybe it's not too big of a deal. But if you have to spend $800, $1,000, $1,200, whatever the size of the project is for a big table, let's say, and that table sits because it's not a client build, it's just you wanted to build it and then you're going to sell it. Yeah, you may make a fantastic profit off of it. You may make $500, $600, $700, $800, whatever the case may be, or more. But if it sits while you're finding a buyer for it, is that okay for you? Can you eat that, that initial cost for everything while you're waiting to find a buyer? So all things to think about in terms of, upfront things versus the final profit. So again, just some things to think about when you're looking at smalls versus bigs. Something to think about. Small items can create quick cash flow, and we've talked about that before. They're great for impulse buys. It's a lot easier for somebody to come up to your table or to see something on online that's $20, $30, or something that's $5 or $10 if you're doing small things like keychains or ornaments or whatever. Those are great impulse buys, and it's real easy for people to buy those versus a $500 coffee table or end table or $1,000 other table or whatever. So smalls, while they may not produce as much profit, they're a great means of cash flow to help fund the nicer wood or the nicer materials or that specialty tool you need to do this big table or whatever. So smalls are a great way to produce cash flow and help with impulse purchases and to kind of just keep things moving along. Sometimes you build one big project and you're hoping somebody buys it and maybe it takes a little longer to get it sold. Sometimes, from a mental standpoint or from a motivational standpoint, can slow you down. You kind of get bummed out about it. Smalls are also a great way to just keep yourself going and keep yourself excited about the process and excited about the hobby or whatever you're doing with it. So just something to think about with smalls. Large projects, however, can be big business boomers. A large project, if you have the means and you have the skill to build a big table, we'll keep going to tables because that's a kind of a common big project. But if you have the means and the skill to build a big table and you're good at marketing that product and you can put it online, you can put it on the various media platforms, you can find a way to market it locally, whether it's at a show or whatever. Big projects like that, higher dollar projects, are great reputation builders for your company. And because that's not something that everybody else around you can do. I'll go with cutting boards for an example. A lot of people make cutting boards. I make cutting boards for the holiday season. Like I said, I'm going to be starting on those soon. But everybody on Marketplace sells cutting boards. You go to a big craft show or a big vendor show, there's 3 or 4 tables that people sell cutting boards. It's so common. It's so popular. And so a lot of people can do cutting boards, but not a lot of people can make a really nice fine dining table that could sell for a high price. So if you're able to do that and you're able to market it correctly and you can afford it, the upfront cost, it is a great way to something like that would be a great way to separate yourself and build a reputation for your business. And I've seen people online, watch YouTube videos that they started off and they made a few tables and they started marketing them. And now all they do is make tables for big companies and businesses, and $30,000 tables. It's a process to get there. But what I'm saying is sometimes those big things like that can distinguish you and separate you from what I'm gonna refer to myself as, and most of us are probably like the average Joe when it comes to doing crafts and things like that. So something to think about. What's the pathway and the longevity of what you're wanting to do. Again, no right or wrong answer, just things to think through. Production is different than craftsmanship, and this one that is one that people may not agree with, and that's okay. Send me your stuff. That's why we talk. A lot of times with smalls, especially if you do a lot of shows or you do things where you try to sell a lot of them in quantity, a lot of times smalls can become more of a production thing than a creative outlet, a creative project, something that you really want to take your time and craft. And that's not meant in any way bad, negative, or at all. But earlier I mentioned like keychains and ornaments. There's some YouTubers that I watch, my wife watches, and they specialize in that kind of stuff. And I watch some YouTubers that I mentioned lasers and CNCs. Their whole shop, they've got 6, 7, 8 of each one of these machines. And that's what they do is they run smalls and they do those kind of items, and they do very well with them. It's what they enjoy doing. But a lot of people would consider that to be more of a production type thing because you're making similar items or the same items, a lot of them, and you're doing them in bulk and you sell them on Etsy or you sell them at markets or whatever. And so there's a thought process of, how do you want to move forward and what do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy more of that batching out and making multiple of the same item over and over again? That does lend us some enjoyment because you're not constantly trying to figure things out. And especially if it's something you do enjoy making, that's a fantastic way to go, and more of the production side of things. If you're making those one-off big projects or one or two of those big projects, then some people have the opinion that it's more of a craftsmanship type thing because not everything's the same. Everything is unique. Every item may be a little different. And so if you're into that sort of thing, you may not be able to make as many at one time, and every process may be different. And you may have to go buy, different screws or different fasteners or different finishes and all these different things for each of your projects. So it's kind of more individually based and they're each unique. But the headache is that you've got to figure out each product out each time. Some people enjoy that. Some people enjoy the process of designing and making and figuring out and solving the problems each time, as opposed to having a process that's down pat and repeatable. Again, I go back to no right or wrong answer. Just something to think about when you're moving forward is what do you think you would enjoy more and you would like more, and what fits your space and the equipment and the tools you have, what fits all of that. And that's something to think about when you're trying to decide, what kind of stuff you want to build and make. We talked about briefly about storage, and that leads us to the point of the cost of inventory. And by that, I mean, a lot of times with smalls, when you make smaller items, keychains, ornaments, those type of things, you do them in larger batches. And so there is a possibility that, you make 300 keychains, different designs, different styles. How long does it take you to sell through those? And so now you're storing stuff. You may have, it may take you months and months and months and months to sell through, these keychains or these whatever. While they don't take a lot of room to store, you do have inventory just setting, if that's the particular thing that you're dealing with. So inventory can become expensive on either side. It can become expensive from a standpoint of a lot of small products sitting, taking up space, and not doing anything. It can become expensive on the bigger products side for the exact same reason. One item can take up a lot of room and you can have a lot of upfront cost. So inventory can become expensive on either side of things. You just got to kind of pick your poison on that. And at the same time, so you may say, well, what if you don't make a lot of the smalls? Then you don't have a lot of that sitting. It may not take you 6 months. It may take you 2 months to sell through it. And you're right. But if you focus on smalls, it's hard to go to a craft show. It's hard to go to a farmer's market and set up a booth. And when I'm talking a booth, I'm talking a couple of tables or display racks and a table. However you want to fill up your entire 10 by 10 booth, which is what most of them are that we've done, is 10 by 10 in size. It's hard to fill up and make your booth look interesting and make your booth look appealing with a small amount of small items. So typically people that do smalls and specialize in smalls, they do have a ton of them. They do have 300-400 of things on racks and go back to keychains and ornaments and small signs. They have a lot of them because that's just how you got to do it to make your booth appealing. So you do have a lot of those. It's hard to do a small amount of smalls and set up at farmers markets and craft shows. We talked about bigger projects. They come with bigger risk, more money up front, more cost. Heaven forbid I talked about storing like a table in your shop while you're waiting to try to sell it or waiting to go to your next show to try to sell it. I've had this happen. This is a true story. I had some coffee tables that I flipped, and we bought at some like garage sales. We used the bases of them. I did the flip on them. I cleaned them up, painted them, put new hardware on them, but I built new tops on them. This is one set next to me that I've had, on all these episodes. And I put a nice walnut top on it. And one of the reasons why this is here at our house, one, I liked it and I needed something next to me here, but it was at a show with us and it got damaged. One of them we had got damaged moving, got really scratched up, and we were taking things in and out of the truck to set up and to break down. But we had a few other of these at our booth at the vintage market that we used to have a permanent booth set up in, and they got damaged. Somebody scribbled on the top of it, a kid or something, and scratched all the top of one, scratched the front up. We had a bench that's now in our foyer, and it got damaged. It got all scratched up sitting in our booth. So there's a risk to the bigger things as well, because when they get damaged, you're out more money, either having to repair them, having to fix them, or just keep them, or sell them at a heavily discounted price to somebody that doesn't mind like a scratch and dent type item. So something to think about with the big items as well. That's kind of really the big points. The last one I had, we kind of already touched on, which lifestyle do you want? Do you like that batching out production type lifestyle, or do you like the slow grind of making maybe bigger items and trying to sell them for bigger profits, big one-hit wonders? But is that easier for you? Do you enjoy the big batch of stuff sitting out, hanging out in your shop, and knocking out a whole bunch of stuff at one time, and then taking the time to sell through it? So again, just stuff to think about. No right or wrong answer. Now I'll give you a little bit of thoughts on my personal experience. I've done both, and we've talked about that. I've done a little bit of both, kind of a combination approach. And my current approach that I have now is using smalls to fund bigger projects. And that's kind of the approach I decided I'm taking for this year. Is I want to take this year and do some smalls, do the things I've talked about on some other videos that I'm doing for the realtors and that line of products. And those aren't really smalls. Those are, I'm selling those for $60 to $100. So they're not what I would call smalls with $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 items. But I want to use my smalls. I want to use my vendor shows, my craft show stuff to fund bigger builds that I can get into tables and larger items. But I have those small things to cash flow the bigger things to where I'm not just out that money if it takes some time to sell. And I think that's kind of the way I'm going to go moving forward. I do actually enjoy the production aspect of the smalls. I've got, my laser that I use now, and I've enjoyed using that and batching out some things for some realtors, some clients. And so I'm kind of getting into that because you can buy your consumables, you can buy your materials in big batches because you're going to use them over the course of making 8 or 10 of these same items. And it actually saves you money in the long run. I'll give you an example. I'm making these 5-foot door leaner signs for one of my realtor friends. And she's ordered several of them so far and just ordered 2 more this week. And so, this may seem small for a lot of people, but when you run on a budget, it's a big deal. So, for example, instead of buying multiple 6-foot pieces of pine common board that we use to make these signs out of, they're $19 a piece at Home Depot and Lowe's. I can buy a 10-foot board, cut it in half for my 5 feet, trim it up, and it's $27. So I saved myself like $13 buying the materials in batches. And that's just a small example, but that can be for a lot of things. So I've enjoying that process of starting to get items that I can do in batches. And I think that's the way I'm going to go moving forward with my craft show stuff, and just pick a few select items, do them well, give varieties of them. It's something that I can do, I'm comfortable doing, and it doesn't take a lot of, work up here to knock them out. And then use that to cash flow kind of the big fun projects and the one-offs that I'll maybe try to sell online or sell on Marketplace, or if we do a really nice kind of higher end show somewhere, which we're looking into, taking a few of those bigger pieces. So, but man, that's all I got for today. I would love to get your thoughts on all that and your experiences. I know we spend a lot of time on Coffee with Chris talking about craft shows and markets. And I keep doing that because I keep getting questions coming in, and I keep getting requests for more videos on this very topic, because it's something that a lot of people are getting into doing and a lot of people like. And so as long as those requests are coming in, we'll keep talking about it. And if you have anything else, as always, that you would love to have a Coffee with Chris episode about, or another video, or regular videos, episodes, or those videos, I should say, not episodes. Keep sending those comments in. I had a few this week that people requested some further videos off of this past week's 10 kind of woodworking truths video. Had some people go, I'd love to see more on that. And those are absolutely videos we're going to be making coming up. So, guys, I thank you for joining me again today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Thank you for hanging out with me and listening to me ramble and talk. Hope you have a good one. We'll see you soon.